Hello and welcome to the Crimson Misery Podcast, episode 30. My name is Will Rainbolt. I hope you all are doing well. It is February 16th, 2025, recording in the wee early hours of the night light, the moonlight. I was about to say the morning light, but technically isn't true. If you all are listening on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts, consider rating the show 5 stars. If you're listening on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment down below, and we have quite the slate to discuss. Starting on Thursday with the unreal matchup of USC and UCLA, JuJu Watkins, Lauren Betts. Oh man, this was a game for the ages. Not real. I mean, kind of an anticlimactic finish, I will admit, but just seeing the star power on display, USC did a really good job at containing Lauren Betts. 5 of 13 shooting, had 18 points to lead the team. So Kiki Rice had to really step up in this one. She had 15 points. Also, Gabriela Jaquez only had 4. UCLA was getting really, really pressured by USC's defense. Very underrated part of USC's game, and I'll get to JuJu Watkins' performance as an individual, but UCLA really couldn't get much going. They had a couple streaks in there, especially in the third quarter, where they eventually were able to come back on USC. They were only trailing by 3 at halftime, even though USC was up by they were up a lot. They were up by almost 15, I think, at one point. But then JuJu was not missing anything. It seemed like in the first half. I believe she had 23 points in the first half of her 38. I believe a little over 20 of them came in the first half, and hit 6 threes on the night. 8 of 10 from the free throw line, had 11 rebounds, and then 8 blocks. She was blocking everything in the fourth quarter. That was really what helped. What helped USC win in the fourth quarter. Outscored UCLA 24-8, knocking off number one, and yeah, really just a fantastic game for JuJu Watkins in the biggest stage, pretty much in this regular season. Kiki Irafin had 13, and then no one else really did a whole lot of scoring wise, but Talia van Olhoven had 7, and hit a 3-pointer at the end of the first quarter that helped USC reach a 9-point lead. Really fantastic game for USC, and they will definitely be climbing the rankings. UCLA undefeated no more, and the Big Ten race is still heating up. UCLA and USC. It's pretty much between those two at this point. Ohio State has a bit of an outside shot, but yeah, it's likely between the two California teams that have joined the Big Ten. So both Notre Dame and Texas won their games. So Notre Dame at number 2 is now 13-0 after defeating Pittsburgh 88-57. And normally, even though obviously Hannah Hidalgo, Player of the Year candidate for Notre Dame, even though she's usually the star of stars whenever Notre Dame plays, this time around it was Olivia Miles, 8 of 13 from 3. Sonia Citron had 22, hit 4 threes. Those were the two big stars for Notre Dame in this one. So another great win for them. They're 22-2 overall. And then Texas won at Kentucky 67-49. And Madison Booker, obviously Texas coming off the big win against South Carolina. Madison Booker had 19 points, 8 rebounds. Another Player of the Year candidate. Just incredible to witness Texas playing as well as they are in the SEC. And then it's between them and South Carolina at the moment, and LSU. But South Carolina is now 11-1 after defeating Florida 101-63. Joyce Edwards had 28 points to lead South Carolina in this one, and Ohio State and NC State also won their games. North Carolina, Duke both won. in the ACC. So they are North Carolina at 12, Duke at 13, and then Auburn losing at Tennessee. So Tennessee at 15th in the country, 5-6 in the SEC, however, but all 6 of their losses have come within conference play. Tennessee won 99-61. Jewel Spear had 17 points to lead the way. Louisville beats Florida State. Tanya Latson had 29. So Louisville to win by 14, that says a lot. And Jada Curry had 17.6 assists in this one. Georgia Tech also goes down to Clemson, 68-61. Maryland losing at home to Nebraska. Maryland seemingly has fallen off a cliff. After I believe they started something like 16-0, 17-0, it's been on a downward spiral at this point. They have lost. No, it was more like, I think it was 14-0. Yeah, so they lost 3 in a row. Then they lost at home to both Illinois and Nebraska. So they have dropped 5 of their last 8. Maryland is definitely sliding at not such a great time. So, and then today, or yesterday technically, Saturday, had some Big 12 action. Kansas State beat UCF 97-67. BYU upsetting Oklahoma State. Creighton is now, I mean, despite UConn still being the favorite to win the Big East, obviously with Paige Beckers and Sarah Strong, Creighton is 13-1 in the Big East. Only loss was to UConn in conference play. They beat Georgetown 70-48, and then West Virginia beat Cincinnati at home 69-50, and then Baylor loses at Texas Tech, who was 2-11 entering this one. 66-60. But it's today's matchups that are going to be the most interesting to watch. Tennessee at home against Ole Miss, Georgia Tech at home against Wake Forest, and then you have, jeez Louise, UConn at South Carolina, a big rivalry game. I expect South Carolina's probably going to win this one, but I'm hoping for a pretty good game, hoping that you all check this one out. Not to be like overshadowing this one though, NC State, number 10 in the country, at North Carolina. That's going to be a really good matchup. We'll see if North Carolina's defense can step up, especially after the scare they had earlier this week. LSU at Texas. Like, come on. Come on. Madison Booker versus Flau'jae Johnson. LSU with 1 loss on the year, and that was at South Carolina. So it's between LSU, Texas, and South Carolina for the SEC. And it's going to be pretty crazy to witness. USC back in action against Washington, bit of an easier time for them. And then Michigan State at UCLA. UCLA will try to bounce back against the Spartans. So we'll see what happens there. We have a couple of matchups I want to note of. On the men's side on Thursday, Memphis is now 11-1 in the American after defeating South Florida 80-65. They will be playing again today against Wichita State. That is at noon. So that'll be a game. If Memphis can beat Wichita State on the road, the only game I really can see Memphis losing the rest of the way, or a game that they shouldn't like, that might give them some trouble at least, is at UAB. But aside from that, I think they're pretty much going to be favored to win the rest of their matchups in the American. So, but we'll see. Anything is theoretically possible. Anything is theoretically possible. And my Ben Shapiro impression. Maryland beats Nebraska on the road. Nebraska probably needed this win to help their NCAA tournament odds, but this loss against Maryland definitely does not help. So they lose 83-75. Derek Queen had 24 points, 11 rebounds. Future NBA player Derek Queen, might I add. A couple other mid-major results. UNC Wilmington is now 11-2 in the Colonial Coastal Athletic Association. I'm still not used to that. That change. It's probably a good change. 86-66 over Charleston. And then actually no, that happened on Friday. I'll talk about that game whenever it comes around. So Indiana loses at home to UCLA. I knew there would be a letdown game after they beat Michigan State on the road. This has happened before. I'm totally used to it. I watched just in case they were able to win this one, and of course that did not happen. So yeah. I mean, they weren't able to stop Ademara in the first half. I believe all 8 of his points came in the first half, or maybe 6 of 8 came in the first half. Tyler Bilodeau had 12. Sky Clark had 11, hit all 3 of his threes. Kobe Johnson had 10. UCLA had a really balanced score, as they usually do. They don't have any blazing scorers, but they still have a ferocious defense that definitely slowed Indiana down. 7 of 29 from 3 was Indiana. So, this is something I've been so used to. God. Again, it's Mike Woodson's last year. Yeah. Luke Goody almost single-handedly brought Indiana back in this one. But every time they got it to within 5 points, UCLA would always have an answer, whether it was Sebastian Mack or Kobe Johnson or Sky Clark. It was just always they would always have an answer. Dylan Andrews hit a 3. At this point, what do I even say? I've said so much about Indiana that it's just not worth getting frustrated over. I'm just sort of phoning it in with Indiana, at least on the men's side. The women's team at least beat Purdue. That's also a game I forgot to mention. Indiana beats the brakes off Purdue, but again, Purdue's a quad 3 or quad 4 win, so because they're horrible on the women's side. So anyway, I'm tired of Trey Galloway shooting these long 3-pointers that are just well short. Anthony Leal's a great dude. He's not a Division I. He's not a Big Ten, maybe a Division I player, but not a Big Ten starter. I'm sorry, that's just not it. He's I'll say this: he's a good defender, but he should be coming off the bench. I'm fine with him getting some minutes, especially as a defensive specialist, but he shouldn't be starting. Luke Goody should be in the starting lineup. Even though Miles Rice hasn't been great as of late, he still probably should be starting over Leal, but at this point it doesn't matter. His season's pretty much done, so yeah. That's kind of where I am right now. Yale defeated Penn 72-71. Yale's now 8-0 in the Ivy League, so continue to keep an eye on them come tournament time, because they're probably going to get the Ivy League bid. Loyola Chicago defeated St. Louis 78-69, so St. Louis really has been falling off as of late, despite Robbie Avila having 19 points, 13 rebounds. Jaden Dawson had 26 and 3 blocks for Loyola Chicago. And then let's get to my favorite head coach of all time, Doug Gottlieb, and I am going to give you 3 options I'll give you 3 options for what happened in their game against Northern Kentucky at home. So, option number A, they lost. Option whatever. I'm tired. Option A, they lost. Option B, they lost. Option C, they lost. And if you guessed any of those answers, you are correct. They lost 73-60. Oh man, 2-24, 0-15 in the Horizon League. Please keep Doug Gottlieb around. This is amazing. This is amazing content. I did want to shout out where is it? So for the Athletic, what is his name? Brian Hamilton had a great column in the Athletic about Doug Gottlieb and how there is a definite conflict of interest between the radio show and the for Fox, and then the lack of results for Green Bay. And obviously those sorts of features and profiles are meant to humanize people who are often ridiculed, as Doug Gottlieb is. He even says, like, it does get to him. I'm not stopping, man. This is too good. Doug Gottlieb was unlikable before this, and he is still unlikable now. And he definitely does not help himself with the continued just insane comments that he makes, seemingly just all the time. Recently, also, I wanted to mention this. He posted a video on Twitter of like a highlight reel of his team. What song did he use? It's a pretty famous classic rock song. Here, let me go look for it. Of his highlights of his team that I counted here. Right Now by Van Halen was the song. Sorry, I had to listen to it first, but he posted that highlight video, and let's see if I can find it where I actually counted there. So Jared in the replies said he counted 4 highlights where you guys had the lead. I just saw that one, but I. The Sickos college basketball committee quoted it and said, just look at all the scores and all the highlights. And then I had posted, this is the greatest highlight reel I've ever seen. I counted a grand total of 13 seconds in this 1 minute, 28 second video where Green Bay had the lead. That is pretty phenomenal. Good job, Doug Gottlieb. Again, just fantastic work. Please, Green Bay, like, see, I don't want to be mean, because, like, I don't think Green Bay fans should be going through this, but at the same time, this is fantastic content, and, like, I can't stop making fun of it. It's just, like, I don't know, it's like that South Park episode where Cartman is laughing at that, like, really short person that has that very, like, squeaky high pitched voice that, like, I'm pretty sure it was Trey Parker who had just had his voice pitched up like all of his South Park characters, or the kids at least, and Cartman just can't stop laughing at him. That's how I feel with Doug Gottlieb, like, genuinely. God, this again, like, I just want to, let's move on to some actual, like, quality basketball on Saturday. So, number 1 versus number 2, Auburn versus Alabama. Auburn wins on the road 94-85. Excuse me. Their defense, Auburn's defense, really made Alabama very uncomfortable, despite Alabama making a comeback attempt in the second half. They ended up tying the game off a Grant Nelson dunk. He finished with 12 points. Mark Sears had 18, including a clutch 3-pointer that helped Alabama get back into it. But Alabama only went 5 of 26 from 3. Mark Sears went 2 for 11 from 3. They just didn't look as good in this one, especially in the first half. Auburn pretty much took control right away. I don't know if Alabama ever had the lead in this one. I know they tied it, but that's as close as they got. Janai Broome got hurt in this one. Like, he may have aggravated that ankle, but he still finished with 19 points, hit a couple threes early on in this one, had 14 rebounds. Dude's a baller, man. I mean, Denver Jones and Miles Kelly are always really Always really good to watch. They combined 5 for 11 from three, hit some big shots down the stretch. Chaney Johnson had 14 points off the bench, hit a couple threes. Chad Baker Mazzara, despite he didn't get ejected, but he fouled out off a flagrant foul that he had, I believe, against Chris Youngblood. He finished with 15, though. Todd Pettiford hit a big three down the stretch, had 13 points. Man, this Auburn team, despite losing to Florida at home, is still really good. Like, we'll see what happens come tournament time, but like one of these two teams, or maybe both, like will at least make like an Elite Eight / Final Four. Like this, they're too good not to. And I know the SEC, like people are kind of hesitant to like overrate them, but at least in the top tier of teams, they're all really good. So Alabama has a little more concern defensively, I think, than Auburn does. That's why I would slightly favor Auburn right now, but still, like, what a great game for them. Great win for Auburn. Bruce Pearl that is his second win on the road in a 1-2 matchup. The first one when he was with Tennessee, defeated Memphis in 2008. That was when Memphis had Derrick Rose and I believe Chris Douglas Roberts as well. So yeah, 2 wins for Bruce Pearl. I've said my piece about Bruce Pearl, about how he's a Trump supporter, about how he's a Zionist. I like that's still like whatever. I'm not going to say anything more. So, 2 third-ranked teams were in action because they tied in the AP poll. Duke defeated Stanford 106-70. Look, man, I don't have much else to say about it. Duke is probably going undefeated the rest of the ACC. Cooper Flagg had another fantastic dunk. Tyrese Proctor had 23. Flagg had 19. Maluach had 17. Konkinepple only had 9, but he still hit a 3. Proctor hit 5 threes as well. Caleb Foster had 10. Mason Gillis only playing 13 minutes, only had 3 points, but a lot of players played for Duke because it was a blowout. So 36-point win is crazy. Florida beat South Carolina 88-67. Don't have much to say about this one. South Carolina 0-12 in the SEC now. Tennessee had to fight back. They were down 16 and at home to Vanderbilt, who they've already lost to. But Tennessee ends up winning 81-76. Zakai Ziegler had 22 points. Chaz Lanier had 21. He's, I think, finally starting to turn the corner a little bit. Jordan Gainey still needs to work on his shot. He went 0 for 4. Igor Melicic had 10. And then despite Jason Edwards, one of the guys I really enjoy watching this year, 24 points, hit 6 triples. Vanderbilt, when they make the tournament, and I think they will, Jason Edwards is going to be a name you should probably watch out for. All of Ziegler's 22 points came in the second half as well. I forgot to mention that. Literally just an incredible comeback for them. Like, I know it's Vanderbilt, but Tennessee definitely needed this win to stay afloat in like the 2 line potentially. Even though they've already lost this week to Kentucky, like they still needed this win for sure. So Texas A&M, number 8 in the country, defeated Arkansas 69-61. Arkansas played pretty well, but Wade Taylor, again, another named. I mean, he's had some tournament moments before, but he had 18 points, 9 assists. Again, just a guy that can do so much offensively, and defensively. He also had 3 steals. So again, Wade Taylor and Texas A&M are going to be a hard out in the NCAA tournament. And then Iowa State wins at home 81-70. Cincinnati played them pretty well in the first half, but Iowa State just too talented, and especially with Milan Momcilovic back for them. Curtis Jones also had 22 points for Iowa State. So they get the win here. big win as well to stay in the Big 12 race, even though it's probably Houston right now. And speaking of which, Houston defeats Arizona 62-58. This was a slugfest that Arizona looked like they were in control for a lot of the game. Like they were leading by 5 at halftime. They seemingly were making more plays down the stretch, but then Houston in the final stretch of the game was just smothering Arizona. They especially, like, in the second half, they were holding Caleb Love in check. Again, another really bad shooting performance for Caleb Love, 1 for 8 from 3, 6 of 15 overall, 17 points. He and KJ Lewis were the only ones in double figures. And then LJ Cryer had 15 points. Milos Uzan had 19 to lead Houston. Yeah, and this, look, Houston, even though they've had these past few years have had some chokes in the NCAA tournament, this team is pretty. Again, Kelvin Sampson has this team playing super well again, and yeah, like this kind of win, especially holding Arizona 5 of 23 from 3, even though they're not a great shooting team as it is. But that's still a pretty low percentage to hold a team from, especially a team that is actually good like Arizona is. Another great win on the road. They are now 13-1 in the Big 12. And then this one was definitely a bit surprising. Sorry to my Purdue fans in my family. But Wisconsin goes on the road and beats Purdue 94-84. John Tonje had 32 points in this one. It seemed like, I mean, pretty much like, yeah, everything he was throwing up pretty much went in. I'm still not quite sure how to pronounce his name. Jack Janicki. I don't care. 11 points. It's Wisconsin. He's pretty much, Ant Wright on Twitter while I was watching said he was pretty much the next, Josh Gosser for Wisconsin. For those of you who watch college basketball in the early 2010s, you'll know that name pretty well. Max Klesmit had 17 points. He had a weird push off on Fletcher Lawyer that should have been called an offensive foul, but it wasn't called. So like that definitely swung a lot of momentum. I think Wisconsin shot like 70 something percent in the second half, like 72%. And yeah, despite, Trey Kaufman-Renn having 30 points in this one, it just seemingly it was the John Tonje show. Because again, when Purdue, anytime they would try to make a comeback in this one, it was always John Tonje. A little bit from John Blackwell, a little bit from Nolan Winter, but man, it's just like everyone on this team can shoot threes for Wisconsin, and whenever Braden Smith or Fletcher Lawyer or both aren't really getting going, it can be pretty tough. Like Lawyer had a good game, CJ Cox had 13, Lawyer had 15, but yeah, just like this is a game you probably need to win at home, especially against this Wisconsin team that I still like have a little bit of reservations about, especially because I just don't really think Greg Gard is all that good of a coach, but yeah, but still, I got to give credit where credit is due. Wisconsin played really well in this one, and Purdue still, I believe are they still leading in the Big Ten after this one, or is it Michigan now? That is a good question that it's Michigan. So Michigan's 11-2. Michigan State, who beat Illinois on the road earlier today, is now 11-3, number 11 in the country. And I'll talk about that game right now. So, yeah, this is the Jackson Kohler game. 23 points, 10 rebounds. And this game was just, like, this is almost, like, unbelievable what I just saw. Because, look, Illinois shoots a ton of threes, even though they're not totally, like, great at hitting them. But yeah, Illinois missed their last 18 shots in this game over 8.5 minutes. it was like they couldn't hit the broadside of a barn in this one. Yeah, yeah. But again, Michigan State didn't shoot a ton of threes in this one, but Jackson Kohler and Carson Cooper had a pretty decent game. Especially on the defensive end with 8 rebounds. Trey Holloman and Cohen Carr off the bench were in double figures. Jace Richardson at 11. But yeah, Jackson Kohler, 4 of 5 from 3. Like I don't recall this dude ever shooting more than like 1 3 in a game like this year or any time in his Michigan State career. And he hit 4 of 5. Like, damn. Like, I guess he hit one against Oregon, but man, like, what the hell? Like that like kind of came out of nowhere. But yeah, Kaspers Yakuchonis at 17, Merez Johnson Jr. at 17. But again, Illinois 7 of 33 from 3-point range. Like they have guys that are capable of hitting 3-pointers, but they just shouldn't take that many of them because this is the result you're gonna get. And Illinois lost quite a few games at home this year. Tennessee was one, Michigan State. Maryland was one. Like, man, what are we doing here if you're Brad Underwood? Yeah. Anyway, Texas Tech, not a ton to say about this one, but they blew out Oklahoma State, who's probably the worst team in the Big 12. Hell, no, that'd probably be Colorado, but one of the worst teams in the Big 12. Texas Tech wins 93-55. JT Toppin, future NBA player, 32 points, 12 rebounds, 3 blocks in this one. He was everywhere in this game. He had a 3, and even when he's not, like, even when he doesn't have a good game or doesn't even play, like the game against Houston, Texas Tech still has Chance McMillan and Elijah Hawkins and Darian Williams and Kerwin Walton and Federico and Christian Anderson and Kevin Overton. Like they have guys that can still play really well. They hit 16 threes in this one, 37 attempts, but like still, this Texas Tech team is a team that is still rising this year, even still. And speaking of future NBA players, and man, like whatever NBA draft board, whatever spot they have Trey Johnson going in, it is not high enough, man. This dude's a baller. Even though he didn't have a great shooting night overall, he still had 32 points. Tremont Mark had 26 points as Texas defeats Kentucky 82-78. So after Kentucky beats Tennessee at home, they turn right back around and choke against Texas. They couldn't get like the ball in bounds. They were struggling, like even making passes. Again, that's what happens when you're without Lamont Butler and you're without Jackson Robinson. And when you're also, Kirk Kriisa hasn't been playing at all because he's been hurt. But yeah, like Travis Perry, like he had a decent game, but like nothing that really replaces Lamont Butler. Kobe Brea did not have a good shooting night. He went 0 for 4. Like I said, when Lamont Butler is a lot of this team's chemistry offensively. Like he makes this team go. And it's very hit or miss when he's not in the lineup. There's still a lot of talent. I love Otega Owe. I like Amari Williams when he's not like making some rather interesting decisions with his game. But Ainsley Almanor had 11. Like this team still has talent, but they need to have that engine. And Lamont Butler, and to a certain extent, Jackson Robinson also is kind of like that. So Kentucky is still a very suspect team come tournament time. It's kind of like it was last year, even though I thought they were a little bit better. I'm just not quite sure anymore. Mississippi State goes on the road and beats Ole Miss 81-71. RJ Melendez had 17 points to lead the way there. Josh Hubbard had 14. This is the big story. Matthew Morrell only had 6. Sean Padula had 13, but he went 3 for 10 from three. It was just not a great shooting night for Ole Miss, who's now 8-5 in the SEC. Mississippi State is now 6-6. This was a big win for Mississippi State, who has not played super well in the SEC, but this is a big pickup win. And speaking of which, Missouri got 2 big wins this week. They defeated, I believe, who'd they play earlier? Yeah, Oklahoma. They won at Georgia as well. So Missouri, this was a week where you're facing 2 of the weaker teams in the SEC. You have a couple of those games too. You have to go to Oklahoma, you have to go to Arkansas, you have South Carolina at home. Those are 3 games that are at Arkansas and at Oklahoma are still going to be tough games. But they've already beaten both of those teams at home, so we'll see. But then they have Alabama, and they have to go to Vanderbilt still, and then they play at home against Kentucky. So it's going to be tough, but Missouri's still pretty much a tournament team in my eyes. They won by 13 on the road. Anthony Robinson, the second, had 15 points, 7 assists, 4 steals in this one. And Georgia was actually leading at halftime, but Missouri, just their transition game is one of the best in the country. So when they get that going, it's really fun to watch. And then Clemson has now won 3 in a row after defeating Duke, and they defeated Carolina. They defeated Florida State on the road 72-46. Ian Shefflin had 14 points, 12 rebounds in this one. Victor Locken had 9 points. Dylan Hunter had 17. Chauncey Wiggins had 10. So Clemson still remaining within striking distance of Duke, but they need Duke to slip up once in order to have a shot at the ACC regular season title, or at least a share of it. Oh, Kansas. What do we do with you, man? I've said it before. This Kansas team is probably worse than last year's team was, and people were saying oh, this Kansas team is actually going to be the better one, despite, look, last year they were ranked preseason number 1, they fell off, lost in the round of 32, and this year they were ranked number 1, and it's a very similar outcome, I think, is what's going to happen, because there's just no fire right now in this team. Despite them trying to come back against Utah, by the way, Utah came into this game 13-11 and 5-8 in the conference in the Big 12, and Utah still looked like the more aggressive team. They wanted this one more at home. Zeke Mayo had a pretty good game, even though he got hurt late. I'm sorry, but KJ Adams should not be starting. It should be Flory Bidunga who should be starting this one. I think he's the better player of the two. At least he should be getting more minutes, because KJ Adams really doesn't provide much at this point. He fouled out. He only had 4 points. Hunter Dickinson went 4 of 12 from the floor. Get out of here, man. Anyone who, any of the commentators that continue to glaze Hunter Dickinson, I'm sorry, he's just kind of not good. He's not Kansas's savior, at least. He's 7-2, and he's still, today was slightly better. He actually had 4 blocks in this one, but there were so many times even still where Utah was just driving on him with no hesitation. He's just not that good of an interior defender. And, Utah is not a great shooting team, but they still, Utah hit 11 threes in this one, and I think they hit 7 or 8 in the first half. Come on. Are we, Utah is just, they're not even that good, and they still looked leagues better than Kansas was. At least having more heart, because, man, this Kansas team, and there are a lot of Kansas fans who want Bill Self's head on a pike, but look, it's hard to replace a legend, but man, this Kansas team is not very good. So anyway, have a couple other results to get through before I head off for the night, for the day, I guess, because you all will probably be listening to this during the day. George Mason had to really come back against St. Joseph's, but they win 58-57. George Mason is now 12-1 in the Atlantic 10. They are still ahead of, they are still ahead of VCU for the Atlantic 10 regular season title, ahead by 1.5 games. I saw a video where Tim Kaine, the former vice president nominee, was in the arena. He was like doing something, like with the band, like just dancing around or something. So that was quite interesting to see. Jalen Haynes had 22 points and 8 rebounds. The game I want to talk about, though. Oh, man. UConn. What happened, man? What happened? Dude, you can't lose to Seton Hall. They're 2-12 in the Big East. They were 1-12 in the Big East before this game. They were 6-18 entering this game. Oh man. Oh man. Oh brother. Oh UConn. Oh Danny Hurley. I get it. You beat Creighton on the road for the first time in program history. And then you were waving. Dan Hurley was waving to the fan. He was saying bye-bye to the fans in like a very childlike manner. And then he was like, 2 rings, 2 rings. And the next game, he can't even draw up a simple inbounds play as UConn turns it over in overtime and Seton Hall wins the game on a putback by Scotty Middleton. Oh, dude. Like, this game was so ugly to watch. Like, Seton Hall was leading at halftime 25-22. Look, of course I have to give Solo Ball some props. He hit 4 threes in this one. But those were all of his field goals. He went 4 of 13 from the floor. Bit of a bounce back for Alex Caravan. Even though he's still not having a good year, at least 3-point shooting wise. He had 20 points, though, which led the team. Liam McNeely, after dropping 38 against Creighton, had 11 in this one. And UConn finally looked like they were going to pull away. They were leading, I believe, by 7 in the second half with, let's see. So, yeah, they were leading 57-50, and I was like, yeah, this game's probably over. So then Dylan Adewusu got fouled on a 3-pointer, so he makes all 3 free throws, and then it was kind of like hot potato with the ball. Like there was UConn turned it over, and then Seton Hall turned it over. It was really weird, and then so UConn was then up 5. So then Dylan Adewusu made a layup to cut it to 3, and then UConn turned it over again. Like, I don't even know if I don't think they got the ball in bounds. Like, and then Godswill Arian, I think that's how you pronounce his name, missed the dunk for Seton Hall, but then I believe it was Isaiah Coleman got the offensive rebound off that, and then he kicked it out to Adewusu again and made the game-tying 3 to send it into overtime. And then once again, it looked like UConn was like in control of this one. Caravan made a couple free throws. Solo Ball made a 3 to put them up like 4, I think. And then UConn was up like 5 with under a minute to go. But then kind of like last time, they were like playing hot potato with the ball again. UConn like threw like a full court pass that Liam McNeely couldn't secure. I believe it was Liam McNeely. And then Isaiah Coleman stole it from McNeely again, and then he got fouled and then made both free throws, and then they tried that like football play, and then like Solo Ball caught caught it and like tried to dribble between two defenders, and it looked like he may have gotten fouled, but I don't give you any mercy for struggling with Seton Hall, who is one of the worst teams in the Power 5, or Power 4, I guess. Well, Power 5 now, technically. It used to be Power 6 with the Pac-12, but point being, may have gotten fouled, but then turned it over, and then Scotty Middleton ended up missing a layup, but then like tipped his own miss back in, and then to give Seton Hall the lead, and then Hassan Diarra tried to win the game for UConn, and his half court shot almost went in, but it clanked off the front of the rim. Seton Hall wins 69-68, and oh my god, like, I mean, like, I'm pretty happy with that because I don't like UConn and I don't like Danny Hurley, so like that was really funny to see. Oh man, so yeah, like play stupid games, win stupid prizes, and if you're gonna be an asshole and like mouth off to fans and whatnot, like I don't have much sympathy for you for losing to a really bad Seton Hall team. So anyway, Wake Forest ended up defeating SMU 77-66. That really helps Wake Forest's NCAA tournament bids. Hunter Salas had 20 points and 9 rebounds. SMU definitely, their NCAA tournament hopes took a hit in this one. North Carolina beat Syracuse 88-82 in the most like whatever game you could have ever imagined. I still like North Carolina still has so much work to do to get into the NCAA tournament. But Jalen Withers had a pretty good game, at least, I guess. McNeese beat New Orleans 78-64. They are now 14-1 in the Southland, 20-6 overall. Great win for them. Oregon State won against Pacific 79-65. So Oregon State is now 18-9 and 8-6 in the West Coast Conference. They still have quite a bit of work to do. They might need to win the West Coast Conference to make it into the NCAA tournament. But then UC San Diego defeated UC Davis 85-60. Tyler McGee had 22 points to lead the way. So UC San Diego still. I mean, both UC Irvine is up 13 right now on Hawaii. They also won earlier this week, I believe. Who did they play? Was it UC? It was Santa Barbara. UC Santa Barbara. They won by 2 in that one for UC Irvine. Okay, no, I sorry, I read something wrong. I was like really confused for a second, but yeah, so. Yeah, it looks like UC Irvine is going to win this one. Bent Leukten has 18 points so far. But yeah, I'm pretty much just going to assume they win that one. Their defense will probably hold up pretty well. But yeah, UC San Diego and UC Irvine. Again, the Big West race is going to be very interesting to see. It'll really be interesting to see who wins that one. Also, speaking of Yale, they beat Princeton today, 84-57. This time, Nick Townsend was the star at 20 points and 7 rebounds. So big win for them. BYU beats Kansas State 80-65. So Kansas State finally has their momentum snapped. They're now 13-12, 7-7 in the Big 12, while BYU is 17-8, 8-6 in the Big 12. BYU definitely needed this one for their NCAA tournament hopes as well. Speaking of NCAA tournament hopes, San Diego State defeated Boise State 64-47. Big win, especially for the Mountain West tournament seeding wise. That moves San Diego State a game ahead of Boise State for that. Gonzaga continues to play really well against weaker competition in the West Coast Conference. They win 107-55. Khalif Battle for Gonzaga had 24 points. And then San Francisco beat San Diego 84-61. San Francisco, the West Coast Conference might get 3 teams in this year, for maybe 4, depending on what Washington State does the rest of the way. Speaking of Washington State, I saw their. Oh yeah, they lost to St. Mary's. No, actually, no. It's more Oregon State, more like. But yeah, St. Mary's beats Washington State 77-56, so they are still atop the West Coast Conference standings. Paulus Morauskas had 30 points in this one and 10 rebounds. Great game played by him. And yeah, so I mean that's still going to be an interesting race in the West Coast Conference. So, and also Montana is now 12-2 in the Big Sky Conference, but yeah, they've taken a 2-game lead now on Northern Colorado, who is looking like they might be the team to beat in the Big Sky, but now it's Montana. They have taken the lead there, so another race to keep your eye on. Towson is now 13-1 in the Coastal Athletic Association, so they are leading there. And yeah, I mean I think that's about it for Saturday's action. And then on Sunday, even though it's a great day for women's hoops, I mean, Memphis and Wichita State are playing, as I mentioned earlier, and then Michigan at Ohio State on CBS. That will be a pretty interesting one. We'll see if Ohio State needs a win, like against a better opponent for their NCAA tournament hopes. And then Bradley versus Drake on ESPN2. That's a very big mid-major game to watch. Drake is 13-2 overall in the Missouri Valley, and 23-2 overall. Bradley is 11-4 and 20-6 in the Missouri, or 20-6 overall, 11-4 in the Missouri Valley. And then Creighton at St. John's is going to really. This game might single-handedly decide the Big East. So keep your eye out on that one. Green Bay in action. They could win. 3:00. This could be Doug Gottlieb's time against Wright State at home. Like, come on. Come on. Like, as much as I make fun of Doug Gottlieb, you got to get this win, right? You're a 9.5-point underdogs. You at least got to cover the spread. Come on. And then another big game. Well, a couple more. Maryland at home against Iowa. This is a game Maryland should definitely win. I feel like. But then Mountain West race. New Mexico versus Utah State. Pretty good. I mean, New Mexico 13-1 in the Mountain West. Utah State at 12-2. Both definitely NCAA tournament teams. And then San Diego State definitely on the bubble. Or at least, I mean, they're definitely, I think San Diego State probably, they're probably like an 11 seed maybe, but yeah, I mean, this pretty much decides the Mountain West, I feel like. I mean, New Mexico's already beaten Utah State, so we'll see. We shall see. So that's some of the action on the men's side, obviously. I mean, it's a good day tomorrow for both women's basketball and men's basketball, so definitely keep your eye out there for stuff to watch. I know people are watching the Four Nations, or I think that's what it's called, hockey. So, I mean, that's cool, I guess. I mean, I've kind of been checked out on hockey because the Blues are just kind of like, but anyway. So with that being said, I think that will do it for me on this episode 30. Thank you all very much for listening. And yeah, it's pretty much all I got. So have a good one, y'all. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.